So I'm going to give myself an easy time and start off with a very simple little question. Well, at least it looks simple. Let's see if there are any supplementaries, because it might turn out to be not so simple. But at first sight it is simple. The question goes, Bhante, have you decided not to wear robes at all anymore? Or will you still wear them on some occasions? Could you please say something of your thinking about this? Well, over the last 2 or 3 years, especially in England, there's been quite a lot of discussion about robes, whether to wear them or not to wear them, and if to wear them, what kind of robe. But I must say I haven't felt very deeply involved in this discussion. I don't really mind very much either way. If the whole order decided it wanted to wear robes, that's fine by me. If the whole order decided it didn't want to wear robes, well, that's also fine by me. I've no strong feelings either way. But as sometimes happens, it seems that, 50% of the order would like to wear robes and 50% wouldn't. So the discussion goes on. I think the nearest that we've come to a consensus, as far as I can see, is that, if there are robes, all order members should have a robe. It should be the same sort of robe, and probably more Zen-like than Theravada-like. That seems to be the sort of consensus, and possibly sort of grey, blue in colour, or something like that. But yes, I don't have any particularly strong feelings. And as regards wearing them myself, I've tended not to wear them in England rather than to wear them. Sometimes it's simply a bit troublesome to change into them, and I haven't bothered. It's as simple as that. But in India, I'm happy, and more than happy, to wear the robes that I used to wear before. People seem to expect it and they appreciate it. One also stands out more in the crowd. People can see you from a distance. And if I stopped wearing it, would require a lot of explanations, which not everybody would find it easy to follow. So that's how I personally feel. I expect I shall continue not to wear them in the West and to wear them in the East. But that's not a promise either way. Anyone? I mean, without actually getting into a discussion about the wearing of robes in general, anyone like to comment on that? Been any change in my thinking or attitude? To some extent, but as a result of attending the Congress of the European Buddhist Union in Berlin. Because in the past, perhaps even the present, one of the arguments put forward by some people against robes generally was that they created a barrier to communication. But I must say that in Berlin I saw that this did not have to be the case, because a lot of Buddhists present were wearing robes. Some were wearing yellow Theravada robes or brown Theravada robes. There were black Zen robes, and what else did we have? Yes, sort of grey-blue Korean Zen robes and Vietnamese robes. Quite a variety of robes, some white robes, brown robes. But it didn't seem to make much difference. People seemed to mingle and communicate across that barrier, if it is a barrier, quite freely. And one saw even Theravada, bhikkhus in the little cafe having a cup of coffee with someone who wasn't in robes, and no one seems to be standing on their dignity, because they were wearing robes, as far as I could see. So that did rather make me wonder whether there hadn't been a change over the last so many years, and whether, at least in Buddhist circles, robes didn't constitute so much of a barrier. I think I could say, though, that if one wants to make the robe a barrier, one can. One can do that very easily. Some Theravadins certainly do that, and perhaps that type of Theravadin didn't come to the Congress. But those who did come certainly didn't act in that way. So I felt that the argument about robes being about barrier to communication has perhaps lost something of its force over the last few years or decades. Yeah. But that doesn't affect really very much my overall personal attitude.
A question I'm often asked by people is that does Sangharakshita consider himself to be a Theravada bhikkhu?
Well, I think the first question will be whether Sangharakshita considers himself to be a Theravadin. As for the rest of the question, just wait for my little book to come out, where it's dealt with, I think, quite adequately and clearly.
The other thing I was wondering was whether you're not wearing robes now is more, I would say it's quite right, but in a way to dissociated yourself a bit from the Theravada tradition.
Well, I think that did happen some time ago, but I think one could say that the fact that I sometimes wear them and sometimes don't wear them, generally speaking, suggests that robes aren't all that important. But perhaps also that they're not entirely unimportant. Perhaps one can take it that way, yeah. But for me, it's not a big deal. You know, I really can't work up any strong feelings about it at all. Yeah. I did find it quite interesting. This is just by the way. An ex-mitra from New York called Mark came to see me, and local order members know him, and he's recently received ordination as a priest in the Free Catholic Church, which I gather, I've discovered now, is a sort of offshoot of the Liberal Catholic Church. I hadn't realized before where it stood, but there were photographs of his ordination and groups of bishops, not just priests, but Free Catholic Church bishops. And what was very noticeable was that there was a most colourful array of robes. They really did seem to be into robes, and quite beautiful colours and quite aesthetic. So I think perhaps, in a general way, one can't overlook the fact that for some people there is this whole aesthetic appeal of robes. And that's part of the whole aesthetic appeal of ritual and ceremony and so on. So I think we need not to overlook that fact, when we consider this whole issue.